What were your biggest challenges in the early days?
Yeah, so in the beginning, I think I always tell the story like I got so excited about creating this whole thing, and it was a sprint to get it open, and then we got it open, and then we were running it, and then probably 3 weeks go by, and I realized, wait a minute, I've got to run this thing like every single day. So in the beginning, honestly, the challenge was the limitation of my thinking, which was like I had to do everything. I had to make sure all the drinks are right. I had to make sure every customer was being, handled properly. And so I worked there all day from, 7:30, 8 o'clock till 11 at night, all day, every day. And then I knew probably a few months into it, there was a problem, which was I got really excited when I got to go to Costco to pick up supplies because that was the one time I got to leave the store.
Okay.
Right. And so I it was just this realization of hey, it was fun to create this thing, but just being there all day, every day and trying to put the whole restaurant on my shoulders was unsustainable. Right. And so after that, I realized I think we need to hire some employees.
Okay. So you're the only one here. You
It's me.
Your wife?
My business partner worked if I was working, he wasn't, and if he was working, I wasn't.
Okay.
And then, but in the beginning, because he kept his job, I was working the whole time.
So was he more of a financial partner?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
And he would just kind of work on the weekends. I quit my job. I went all in on this.
Yeah.
And then I had a buddy who was helping me out. So he was with me pretty much all day, every day, just the two of us. And so eventually we started hiring some kids, and we had a few kids working for us. And I'll never forget this day because it had, again, just see it as clear as day. I'm working super frustrated because they're not helping. They're kind of just standing around and didn't really say anything. And then the kid comes over to me. His name's Andy. He's like, hey, you look really frustrated. Can we help you? I was like, yeah. I was like, why aren't you guys helping me? I'm busting my butt over here.
We're looking for a direction.
And he said, he's like, we want to just tell us what to do.
Yeah. Right.
And it was in that moment because the way I kind of grew up and was wired is I go into situations, see what needs to be done, and just step up and do it, right? And without being given a lot of direction. These kids were hungry to work, but they needed direction. And it was in that moment I was like, I haven't trained you.
Yeah.
I haven't created a team, employee manual.
Yeah.
So that's me on the course. I've got to actually properly train these kids.
So what did that look like? Where did you go to learn how to train? Did you even know how to train people? Did you know what you needed to do to get them to the place where they could do their job?
Yeah, candidly. I mean, I looked at other company restaurant employee manuals and kind of saw how they were broken down.
These? Did you ask for them or did you steal them or
I got access from other kids hey, here's a Boston Market one, or here's one from, I forget what other companies there were, but we looked through them. I don't know if we could find them online back then, but then it was started thinking through logically, how would we put this together? What do they need to know? Well, they need to know a little bit about who we are. Mm-hmm. They need to know about what our core values are. Mm-hmm. They need to know, then it's more kind of the legal stuff. Well, harassment and workplace diversity and all that stuff. And then we got into creating a handbook, which is kind of covered policy and procedure, what I do if I'm late. And then it was training, how do we train people how to do recipes? And so I just kind of thought through, honestly, me and actually another person who works here, Alana, she kind of put it together and we went with it and we've been refining it honestly ever since.
Beautiful. And now today, you can go to restaurantowner.com and get all that stuff. It's a great resource.
Right.
Yeah.
I know.
So I'll be sure to link to that in the show notes. It's templates of everything you need, operations manuals, checklists. It's a great resource.
I remember signing up for them probably 5 years into it.
Yeah.
And looking at oh, this is really great stuff.
Yeah. Because you don't have to reinvent the wheel.
That's right.
You can take these systems that have been created and just plug them into your business. Okay, going from there, how did that start to change your business once you started empowering your people? Any tricks of the trade that you can share with us on making that transition to working in the business to on the business?
I think I think it took a while for me in that regard because I tend to wanted to hold the reins a little too tightly. And I think it was 2007, our tea supplier, and I think I did that even into the second store. We had kind of built the team, and I had a general manager, and I was able to kind of step out more.
Yeah.
But even going in, when I opened the second location, it was the same thing. I was in it all day, and that's kind of how I associated this is how it's going to be. You open one, you go full tilt for about a year, and then slowly you can start to win yourself off. And then our tea supplier, this company called Art of Tea, a buddy of mine who owned it, he said, you should go check out this peer group for entrepreneurs called EO.
Okay.
Entrepreneurs Organization.
Yep.
And that really changed my thinking.
How? What was the biggest way this group changed your thinking?
So the first thing is, one, I think entrepreneurial journey is very lonely, right? And
lonely at the top.
Lonely at the top, and I think hanging out with all my kind of corporate 9-to-5 buddies, they just didn't understand. They didn't understand sweat and payroll. They didn't understand having to you don't, even though you're not working, your brain doesn't stop. You're always thinking about work. And especially being in retail, it's 7 days a week, right? And it's morning till night. It's all day, every day. And so joining this peer group, you sit around with people and you get to realize oh man, these
was this in person?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the organization is really about, getting entrepreneurs together. You create this peer group and where you get to share, learn, and grow together.
Yeah.
And I think the key to it, though, is showing up again. I talk about being known, but being afraid to be known because you don't think you'll be loved. Yeah. And so one of the first things we do is we all go and kind of tell our life story. We do what we call a lifeline, the highs of highs, the lows of lows. And once everyone kind of shares, you realize, oh, man, everyone's been through a lot of stuff, right? And then that kind of puts our guards down. And then when we get together and we meet each month, we talk about real stuff. Right. So sometimes there might be stuff that I'm stressed out about that I may not want to tell Jennifer because I don't want her to worry, or I can't talk to my buddy who runs who has a 9-to-5 job. You can't relate. Yeah. And so this group is really someone that, one, I can be who I am. Yep. They get what I'm going through.
Maybe they've gone through it.
And then the key is we can't give advice. This is a really interesting concept. You can't give advice. You can only share experience. So each time we meet, we do these presentations, and I say, hey, I'm having this big challenge with, I'm having a challenge with a team member, like a manager or something. Yeah. And so after I've kind of given them facts, they can ask some questions, and then everyone goes around and has a few minutes, and all they can do is share their experience. They can only speak from I've done this, instead of you need to do this. Because oftentimes giving advice is about me thinking what's best for you, right? And it comes from a good place, but it's generally because I think I know what's best for you, versus you're on a table of 6 or 7 other people who share their experience. You feel connected, and then you can synthesize your own solution from that without being directed on what to do.
And no two situations are exactly the same. Totally. So you might have to take a mix of the 5 different scenarios that other people did that worked for them and make it your own by taking a little bit of their experience, taking a little bit of their experience, and a little of her experience, and a little of his, and making your own solution. Because it's not black and white. That's one thing I've learned. The more I learn, the more I realize I don't know anything.
That's right. And the benefit too is it's not just the person presenting its value. Something that if you're presenting and I'm in the room, something that someone else says, that's my takeaway. It's man, I've never thought about it the way you thought about it. So everyone gets value out of it, right? Yeah. And so going back to this peer group, where it made me start to create space to say, hey, I need to spend time thinking about the business, not just doing all the time. What do I want? Why am I doing what I'm doing? Contemplating these things. What kind of culture do I want to create? Is there an end game? Is there build it up to a point and sell it, or in this for the long haul? So it was less about the advice and more about what questions should I be asking myself, and creating space to think about it.
You don't know until you know.
You don't know.
Yeah.
And then having a peer group to bounce a lot of these ideas off of.
And just something real quick for anybody who's listening to this, you can go out there. And the restaurant industry is very unique, it's very specific. You can go into your community, find other business people in your community that you admire, that you think they're running a good business, and just be hey, this is where I'm at. Maybe you feel the same way. Do you want to get together once a month and have a couple beers, or maybe for coffee or whatever, and just lean on each other? There's nothing stopping you guys who are listening to this to go out there and to start your own little peer group. some people call them masterminds. I host a monthly mastermind where it's 4 people that we just get together and we meet over Skype. It doesn't have to be in your community. It can be anywhere, but so powerful. So just what are you waiting for? I guess is what I'm saying. Go out there and start your own group if you feel like this will help you. Go start it.
I mean, so even EO is a global organization, over
Yeah.
14,000 members, and most major cities have a chapter. So I have a local forum.
Yeah.
We meet monthly. I'm also in a virtual forum that's industry specific. So it's
Nice.
all restaurateurs.
I'll link to that in the show notes. Yeah.
So it's super cool.